Good morning and welcome to Inside Texoma. Today we're taking an inside look at Storm Week and severe weather season, and how better to kick it off than with our own chief meteorologist, Ken Johnson. Welcome, Ken.
Well, it's good to be here, Melissa.
So we're talking about severe weather season, which really starts to get underway in March here as we kick off March. Let's just talk a little bit about, this time of year.
Well, what happens is March, more so in April and May than March, but we can see it in March. We start seeing the seasons try to change. We're going from winter and summer's trying to come in and take its place, and you're getting this big tug of war, and it can create these big storm systems that can generate severe weather, including all facets of severe weather, heavy rain, flooding, which we need to see here, large hail, strong winds, and even tornadoes.
And speaking of tornadoes, I know that's probably pretty scary as a meteorologist. What's it like for you during this time of year?
Probably one of my more exciting times of the year, to be honest about it. Let's just face it, we get into this business because we're interesting weather. We don't like to see severe weather. As a parent, definitely, I don't like it at all. But it's exciting for me to be able to cover it. And what's more exciting to me is to be able to share with the viewers my knowledge, and to be able to share with the viewers my enthusiasm, and to also take that and that information to help better prepare you to stay safe in these types of situations, to let you and your family know what it is you need to do. We're going to have severe weather. It's just all there is to it. There's nothing we can do about that. So, that's probably more the reason why I get enthusiastic about it is, there again, it's not something I'm happy about, but it is something I get enthusiastic about.
And that whole safety aspect is part of the reason why News Channel 6 is being so active right now. We've got road shows coming up, and we have Storm Week coming up, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. Well, Storm Week, we kick off this week with it being Severe Weather Awareness Week here in Texoma. And what we do with Storm Week is we have videos, each of us, myself, John Cameron, James Parrish, Dave Caulfield, all of us have put together different pieces sharing on different aspects of severe weather. Not just the topic of the day, like you see from the Weather Service in Norman. These are actually different pieces, different stories. We do different stories every year. This year, we're going to bring our storm chaser, Eric Fox, into the mix. I think it's happening on Friday night, and we're going to do a live Q&A with him here on the set. He's going to talk a little bit about, what role he plays in our severe weather coverage, which is very key to what he's very vital in what he's doing. He's showing us a live video out in the field of tornadoes and storms, and it just helps us better prepare our viewers for what's to come.
I'm sure that'll be an interesting talk. Is that a 6 o'clock type thing or 10 o'clock type newscast?
Usually at 10 o'clock, yeah.
Now, I know storm chasing is his thing. Have you been storm chasing during this time of year?
Oh, yeah. I try to do it, at least a couple times a year. It's great to be able to get out into the field and see what you're forecasting, not just looking at it on a computer screen, but actually see what you're forecasting, feel it, and kind of better understand it. So I try to go a couple times a year. 2 years ago, I went up to Oklahoma, El Reno, Oklahoma. It was a big EF5, 2.6 mile wide wedge on the ground, and we were able to see it from a distance.
I'm sure you guys will have a lot to talk about. And then also coming up next week is your own piece. And it's not necessarily severe weather related, it's more drought related, right?
Well, no, that's not true. It is severe weather related because the drought has been responsible for a lack of severe weather in this part of the country over the last couple of years. Well, it's not only that we're seeing drought here, but we're also seeing dry weather across other parts of the state and other parts of the country, which creates what's called a cap in the atmosphere. This hot, dry air developed down in Mexico and over in the desert Southwest. That moves on top of us, and that keeps our storms from growing. It keeps our clouds from developing into thunderstorms. So that's been a problem. Another problem is the dry line has been too far to the east. It'll develop during the day, and instead of parking itself to the west where we need it to be, it will shoot itself further to the east. What my piece is talking about this year is there's been a lot more rain across West Texas into New Mexico, those areas out west. There's actually been more rain in our area this year too, and while the lakes haven't seen a big increase, the actual soil moisture is better. It's there. So this year we're thinking that the dry line, seeing as how things are more moist this year, will park itself a little bit further to the west, and it doesn't have that dry air that's pushing it further to the east. So we think that we'll see at least a more typical severe weather season, and with more moisture off to the west as well, it might help lower that hot air or help get rid of that hot air in the atmosphere. So we might see less of a cap this year that might actually help us get more storm coverage as well.
Very interesting. Of course, an active severe weather season is going to be important to fighting this drought.
And like I was saying a few moments ago, it's not that we want to see severe weather, but it is going to happen in parts of the country. We need it to happen here. We need those thunderstorms. We need that rain. We need a lot of it, too, to just sit over our watersheds and park for days on end. We need a very active severe weather season. Right now, I don't know that it's going to be a real active one, but we think it'll be more of a typical one.
So when can people tune in to see your piece?
We're doing this 10 o'clock on Monday, March the 2nd.
All right, well, tune in. Ken, thanks so much for sharing your piece with us. We're going to talk to the rest of the Sky 1-6 weather team, and we're going to talk about the big road shows that are coming up this year. It's coming up on Inside Texoma. Welcome back to Inside Texoma on this Sunday morning. I'm joined by my morning show buddy, John Cameron. We're talking about severe weather season and storm week here at News Channel 6. You've covered severe weather and weather here in Texoma for a long time, so this is an interesting time of year for you, I'm sure.
It is. We start to get busy this time of the year. We start to really kind of put all our forecasting efforts together, and we look for that next possible chance that some stormy weather might find us here in Texoma.
Have you seen anything particularly interesting over the past couple storm seasons?
Oh, well, it seems like we always have those real big events that we can see coming about a week down the pike, and you know, you can see those ingredients coming together, moisture, upper level energy in the atmosphere, and just the right ingredients for what could be a pretty intense weather scenario that can produce the kind of weather we're talking about during the road shows, during the weather fair, and of course, you know, on a regular basis during the springtime. We talk about these severe weather events almost daily, it seems like.
So when you're talking to viewers about severe weather, I imagine there are some myths, some misconceptions that you hear on a regular basis.
There are. You know, everyone means well, and everyone is always looking out for their neighbor, maybe looking out for their son or daughter. You know, sometimes grandparents are known to tell tales when it comes to severe weather. But when we go out in the public and we do weather talks and we do the weather road shows and we do the weather fair that we're going to do here in March, we really take advantage of that time, and we really try to do our best to dispel any myths, because sometimes myths or falsehoods can be accepted as the real deal, as things you need to follow. A perfect example of that. You don't hear a lot of this now, but when I was a kid, there was this thing they would say. The thinking was, if a tornado was close to your home, that the inequality or the difference in pressure, air pressure between your home and the tornado could cause your home to collapse or explode or something like that. So the thinking was, as part of your strategy to save your home from this tornadic wind, is open a window. And you open the window, you think, well, we might equalize the pressure. Well, we finally got smart. We realized, you know, if a tornado was close enough to your home to where that pressure is going to make a difference, chances are that tornado is going to open that window for you.
Yes.
So instead of wasting your time and putting yourself in danger, because that window serves as the easiest way for debris to get into your home, don't get near a window. Just go directly to shelter, stay safe, and you know, don't come out until things are safe once again, until the storm has passed. That difference in pressure is really not what destroys a home. What destroys a home is that tornado is laden with debris, whether it be your neighbor's car, your neighbor's fence, trees, you name it, rocks. That's what's going to destroy your home. Stay away from that window, because that kind of junk might be thrown through the window. Yeah. Another thing is that communities, now granted, we have a lot of flat land here in Texoma, but we do have some hills, like up in the Wichita Mountains. There's this cute little community called Medicine Park. And you would think if there was any one place in Texoma that might be safe from tornadoes, it would be Medicine Park, Oklahoma. It's kind of nestled there in the heart of the Wichita Mountains. It's surrounded by these beautiful granite hills and kind of a picture postcard community. Well, in February, I think, of 1987, Medicine Park was hit by a tornado that did $1 million worth of damage. So if Medicine Park, Oklahoma is vulnerable to be hit by a tornado, then any spot on the map here is vulnerable.
So now a lot of times these myths can lead to fears. I know your Storm Week story that you're going to be sharing with us all this week is about some of those fears, right?
Yeah, that's true. We talk about being scared of thunderstorms. Well, it's a natural reaction to be scared of something that could do us harm. I mean, we know that there have been times where tornadoes have killed people, lightning strikes have killed people, very intense weather, strong winds have hurt us real bad. But when we're talking about phobias and irrational fears, we're talking about a fear or a reaction that is not proportionate to the risk. In other words, we're talking about people who don't just get nervous and get their plan together and take shelter when needed. We're talking about people who become numb, their heart pounds, they sweat profusely, they start to lose their train of thought. They get numb to the point where they may not be able to make the right decision when it comes to take action. So let's say that a person with intense fear or phobia related to severe weather, let's say that person is the parent of a 5 or 6 year old kid. That's concerning because if they can't get their train of thought together when it's time to take action and get to shelter, they could put both the person who suffers from the fear and that child in danger because perhaps the right action is not taken. So we talk about this disproportionate reaction or fears or reactions that just don't serve us. Granted, as I mentioned, fear is a great motivator. It usually causes us to take the right action and do the right thing. In other words, seek shelter from the storm. But sometimes the fear, the reaction is just not the right one. Here's a perfect example. We know that severe weather can take lives. It's in our history. That tornado back in 1979 killed 45 people. But we think about things like motor vehicle accidents. Car accidents kill 35,000 people on average here in the United States. But in 2013, only 55 people were killed in the United States by tornadoes. About 82 people were killed by flooding. When we talk about things that people are really scared of or have kind of paranoias about, would you believe some of the two biggest things are spiders and snakes? Mm-hmm. Snakes kill on average of 5 to 10 people a year, and I don't think there's any evidence that spiders have killed anyone. So we're talking about just a proportionate reaction and a proportionate fear instead of a phobia. And we also have to know that phobia can be passed down to children. Children take cues from their parents on how to conduct themselves, how to speak, and how to react to things that can do them harm. So people who have phobias as adults, they could be passing that down to their kids.
This definitely sounds like a really interesting story. Tune in this week for Storm Week to see your story. Do we know which night of the week it's airing?
I believe it's March 5th.
All right, March 5th, and mark your calendars, March 28th, real quick. Another 79 tornado panels coming up at the Psych Center Mall.
That's right, yep. Obviously the biggest weather event in Texoma's history, and we're going to be talking to some survivors. We're already taking some submissions, some email submissions of people kind of giving us their stories, and we would love for those folks to kind of talk to our attendees at the weather fair coming up on the 28th. And just kind of share their survival story.
All right, well, we're going to talk a lot more about that event at the mall and all the road shows right after this break. Welcome back to Inside Texoma as we look ahead to Storm Week and severe weather season with our Skywarn 6 weather team. Right now I'm joined by James Parrish. Welcome, James.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa.
Well, we've been talking about the road shows. In the last segment, you heard John mention the big one at the mall
Oh, that is the big one. That's the one that you do not want to miss. That is March 28th.
But leading up to that, there are a couple other road shows, right?
That's right. We're going to 3 different towns. The first one will be March 5th. That will happen at Graham High School. The road show will start at 7 o'clock, and it's just going to be a fantastic time. Then the following week, March 12th, we're going to be at Bowie Junior High, and the final smaller road shows will take place on in Burke-Burnett at the Burke-Burnett Community Center. Now, that one's going to be a little bit special, too, because the Burke-Burnett Emergency Management will be at that Burke-Burnett one on March 19th. So we got a lot of great shows to talk about. We're going to be going to the Graham, Bowie, as well as Burke-Burnett, and we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about, as well as some giveaways.
So what can people expect as far as what the presentation's actually going to be at those road shows?
Well, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun, of course, and we're going to talk about a lot of interesting stuff. So they're going to learn a lot. I mean, I'm going to start out the presentation talking about what exactly is a thunderstorm. Then I'm going to go into what are the ingredients that meteorologists, what are the ingredients that our Skywarn 6 weather team looks for when we're talking about severe weather or the potential for some severe weather. We're going to talk about what a severe thunderstorm actually is. Then we're actually going to break down some numbers a little bit and talk about how many days can we exactly expect thunderstorms to roll through or rumble through Texoma each year. Then we're going to go even farther than that, Melissa. We're going to talk about how many days we can expect severe thunderstorms in Texoma, talking about damaging winds as well as large hail. Then we're going to even break it down even farther and talk about exactly how many days we could possibly expect tornadoes in Texoma. So we got a lot to talk about, and that's just not it. We're going to talk about timing of tornadoes. Do they happen more in the afternoon, evening, overnight hours? When do you need to be prepared for severe thunderstorms? When do you need to be prepared for tornadoes? So we're going to talk about safety as well. We're going to also talk about what are some things to look for in our forecast. Are we talking about an outlook? Are we talking about a warning? Are we talking about a watch? And when exactly you need to seek shelter right away to potentially save your life if a tornado is barreling down on your community as we speak. So we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. We're also going to be giving away a NOAA weather radio, which is one of the most reliable ways to stay safe during severe weather and obtain that weather information. So I guarantee that if you come out to one of our weather road shows, whether it's in Graham, Bowie, Burke-Burnett, or the big one, and I mean a big one, at Sykes Center Mall, you are definitely going to have fun, learn a lot, and maybe walk away with some pretty cool gifts.
Let's touch on the mall as well. We heard John say he's looking for people to be part of the 79 tornado panel. What else can people expect at the mall on the 28th?
Well, one of the offices from the National Weather Service that issues these tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings in Norman, they'll actually be coming down to our Sykes Center Mall as well. And they are going to be talking about storm spotter training as well as issuing the severe thunderstorm process and what goes along in what their thinking is when they're looking at a severe thunderstorm on radar or hearing reports about a severe thunderstorm. They're going to talk about how and why and where they issue that warning. So they got a lot of stuff to talk about, as well as, of course, they're going to be talking about storm spotter training, which is very, very helpful in the process of analyzing radar, because radar is not necessarily perfect. So when we get those storm reports in, or the National Weather Service gets those storm reports in, it is very important to them.
So mark your calendars for the 28th as well. It's going to be another big event. It was a big event last year as well. So we certainly
That's right. It was a huge event.
We want everyone to come out again. And as we get into Storm Week leading up to all these road shows, as we've been mentioning, our meteorologists are putting together stories. So James, what is your story about?
Well, my story is kind of like what we just talked about, Melissa. It's about, okay, we have this thunderstorm that is rumbling through Texoma. How exactly do we know if the severe thunderstorm is severe or not? Now, there are two things that make a storm severe, whether or not that storm is producing 58-mile-per-hour winds or 1-inch sized hail. But how exactly do you know that by looking on radar? It's not, the radar just doesn't pop up, oh, this thunderstorm is producing 58-mile-per-hour winds. This thunderstorm is producing a 1-inch sized hail. So we talk about how the storm spotter process is extremely important to the National Weather Service as well as us. And then we talk about how they actually issue the severe thunderstorm warning and what programs they use and how fast that warning goes from the mind of the meteorologist sitting up in that forecast office of Norman, Oklahoma, to your TV, and that time is really, really small. We're talking about less than a minute in many cases.
Very interesting. I'm sure a lot of people will want to know that as we get into severe weather season here, because it keeps you guys on your toes looking at that radar.
Looking at the Skywarn 6 Live 3D Vision radar definitely keeps us on our toes, especially during severe weather season, because it seems like almost every day there's at least a chance of somewhere in Texoma to see a severe thunderstorm, whether we're talking about large hail or damaging winds and possibly maybe even a tornado. So severe weather season, March, April, May, even into the first part of June is very, very crucial. And it's going to definitely keep us on our toes because we're going to be looking at Skywarn 6 Live 3D Vision radar a whole lot this spring, I have a feeling.
I'm sure. Now, when does your piece air?
My piece will air on Tuesday, March 3rd. We'll have some pieces in there as well. The March 3rd and the big package will air at News Channel 6 at 10.
All right, make sure you mark your calendars for all of that. So much going on. Thanks for letting us know, James.
No problem, Melissa.
And coming up after this break, we'll talk to Skywarn 6 meteorologist Dave Caulfield about what he has to offer for Storm Week. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. Right now I'm joined by Skywarn 6 meteorologist Dave Caulfield. Welcome to Inside Texoma, Dave.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Melissa.
So we've been talking about the pieces that the meteorologists are going to be putting together for Storm Week. Yours is about storm spotter training.
Yes, and storm spotters are people just like you and me, potentially, or they could be more along the lines of law enforcement professionals, but they're people that take what is happening outside, if there's a storm going on, and report it back to the National Weather Service so people can use that information to possibly issue warnings and things like that. And it surprised some people because I did talk to people at the Storm Spotter training session in Wichita Falls back on Valentine's Day. It surprised a lot of people that storm spotters are still necessary in 2015. You know, we have all this crazy technology in a lot of facets of the world, and including meteorology. We're getting much, much better with models and everything like that. But storm spotters still very, very integral, and they play a huge part in differentiating what the radar might see to what's actually happening. Case in point, a couple of weekends ago, we had some sleet and rain hit Wichita Falls, but the radar, Skywarn 6 Live 3D Vision radar, wasn't showing any sleet at all, but a lot of people reporting it to our stations, reporting it to the National Weather Service. They're saying, hey, we're getting some sleet in here. So that's very, very important when it comes to severe weather, because if someone's saying that there's a tornado out there and the radar is not necessarily saying that, well, then we have to look a little bit closer to see, hey, do we get this warning out now? Is a tornado actually happening? It may not be showing up on radar at the present time.
Something that's very important to you as a meteorologist.
Yes, because at the end of the day, we're in here tracking the storms, and the National Weather Service is in their offices tracking the storms on radar, on their computers, and things like that. But to have people actually out in the field volunteering their time and saying, okay, we have a severe thunderstorm potentially rolling through, I'm seeing this size hail, what is everybody else seeing? And then they can relay that information back to the professionals that can use that to keep people safe down the road.
And you can really be a storm spotter if you're young, if you're old. I mean, it's really anybody, right?
Absolutely. You know, most people that take these training seminars like we had in Wichita Falls that were going on in the month of February around the Norman Forecast Office were storm professionals like, you know, police officers and people like that. But there were kids there were college students there. I talked to a person who was interested in photography, and he said that, you know, he used to just go blindly out there looking for things that made pretty pictures, but now he feels a lot safer. And going forward, as he goes and takes more pictures, he can know what to look for, what is the difference between maybe a wall cloud or a scud cloud. They talked about how people that take this class or that take storm spotter training are now like the resident weather experts. I was talking to Rick Smith, the warning coordination meteorologist out of Norman, and he said that these classes are very important because, you know, you may not have a TV or you may not even know who the National Weather Service is, but if you take one of these classes, you're like the resident weather expert of your family or your work, and then people will be able to trust you. If something bad is happening with the weather, they can turn to you and be like, okay, what do you remember from that class? And you can actually keep a lot more people than just yourself safe.
Well, Dave, your story airs on March 4th, right?
Yes, yes.
And really, we want you to tune in that whole week so you can see everybody's stories. All the stories you've heard a little teaser of today will be airing during Storm Week.
Absolutely. It's going to be great.
And something else, we want to give you the dates for the road shows one more time, Dave. I know you're going to be at some of these.
Yes, I will be at all of them, actually.
All of them.
Yes.
There you go. You get to go see Dave Caulfield March 5th at Graham High School, March 12th at Bowie Junior High, March 19th at the Burke Burnett Community Center, and our big road show March 28th at the Sykes Center Mall. I'll even be at that one.
Oh, that's exciting.
The whole News Channel 6 crew. So we really want you to mark your calendar for those dates because we have a lot coming up, a lot of things that we've talked about and previewed for you today, and a whole lot more that you really, really would like to know, I think.
Absolutely. It's going to be a jam-packed day of weather information. It's going to be a lot of fun, as the other meteorologists have been saying. And you get to see some of your favorite News Channel 6 personalities there. What more could you want out of an event?
Exactly. And you can always tune in to News Channel 6, of course, to see your favorite weather personalities. But we're glad you tuned in to Inside Texoma today. Thank you for watching.